Hello and most welcome to 1344, and I will today take up the book How to Learn the Alexander Technique by Barbara Conable. And especially the concept of body map, how we think of the world / body is the way it is, or that is what we get. The body has a mind of its own will be referenced also by Matthew and Susan Blakeslee.
Sandra Blakeslee.
Sorry, Sandra Blakeslee, thank you for the correction. In the 7th chapter of the book, page 32, for those who follow, it is about the body map, further investigated by Matthew and Sandra Blakeslee. And it's titled, Your Body Map and How to Correct It. The most valuable asset you can bring into the study of the Alexander technique is an accurate body map. If your body map is inaccurate, you can correct it. Body mapping work is a work that you can do on your own once you understand what you are doing. And I promise it will repay every minute you put into it. Bill Conable developed the mapping work in his teaching of stringed instrument and the Alexander technique at the Ohio State University. He began to use mapping in his Alexander technique classes. And he discovered that it speeded learning of the technique to a degree that he couldn't have predicted. My experience corroborates this. Mapping work is never instead of Alexander work. It is simply done at the same time. Right in the course of hands-on work or work in activity. It is because of the power of the mapping work that I use visual aids as much as I do in my teaching. Skeletons and anatomy texts are invaluable visual supports for a person's experience. A person will deliver weight efficiently into a chair through the rocker-shaped base of the pelvis if she can see a skeleton on the chair near her doing the same thing. Besides, it's fun. The body map is simple and profound. Assume that you have a map of your body somewhere in your mind or nervous system or psyche or whatever you like to call the internal processing part of yourself that makes information available to you about you. Assume it's easy to gain access to your map. I have never asked a person a question about his body and not got an answer. If I say, where is the joint of your thigh with your pelvis? Or what's a spine like, do you think? Or where are the joints with which you bow your violin? Or where are your lungs anyway? I always get an answer. . sometimes the answer is accurate, and sometimes it is out there in cuckoo land. And sometimes it's a little off. In any case, the person will always try to move according to how he thinks he's structured. When there is a conflict between the map and the reality, the map will always win in the movement. Perhaps that is law of human movement 3. When there is a conflict between the map and the reality, the map will always win in the movement. Always. I have never seen an exception to it. It is inevitably because the map is what shapes our experience, and we can change it only by a conscious effort. Some mapping errors have career-destroying consequences. I have taught violinists and pianists suffering from tendinitis of the elbow in my experience, the malady is always caused by a misunderstanding of the rotation of the lower arm. If I say to the violinist, tell me about the rotation of the lower arm, I will always get an answer indicating that the rotation is around an axis on the thumb side of the arm. And darned if they can't almost make it look like it works that way. The problem for them is that what they do to make it look that way tightens the muscles of the lower arm and puts a strain on the elbow joint that causes technical problems and injury. In fact, the rotation is around the bone on the little finger side of the arm. When the violinist comes to understand the structure, she will use the arm as it was designed to be used. Technical problems clear up and the tendinitis disappears because the pressure is off the joint. The reason the mapping work is so effective in speeding Alexander learning is that students bring their faulty maps to the lessons and earnestly attempt to learn the technique using the old map. Lessons alone may in time correct the map as the student achieves finer sensory appreciation. but the map still remains largely unconscious. Whereas when the map is brought into consciousness and consciously corrected, and refined, the student has a cognitive tool that will go on improving her use of her body long after the lessons cease. What follows in this section of the manual are pages that allow you to explore your map that will assure you that you bring an accurate map to your Alexander study. I have chosen these pages based on my experience of students. And the mapping problems that most often contribute to confusion or misunderstanding as they learn the technique. What follows in this section of the manual are pages that allow you to explore your map in ways that will assure that you bring an accurate map to your Alexander study. When the map is corrected, the confusion clears and learning proceeds. The goal here is prevention and confusion control. If you want more detail, consider buying an anatomy book. We must begin here with a statement of a fact that would seem absurdly obvious to some of you. If so, just bear with me and proceed. Because what I am about to say will be crucial for a few of you, and I will risk offending the many for the few. There are three basic layers, onion-like, in our bodies: bone, then muscle, then skin. This needs to be said. Because once in a while a person looks at her drawing and realizes that she sees no indication of a skeleton within. I have recently seen two such drawings. Both were made by women, and both women experienced a pervasive, burdensome overwork in muscles. One of the women said animatedly, "I think I am a sort of mass, like a jellyfish." I really do think I'm like a jellyfish. The rest of us try to imagine how we would feel if we had her map, 150 pounds of jelly hauling itself up by sheer effort in the jelly, moving by bending the jelly. We decided we were very glad we weren't actually like that. To put an accurate map in place for learning Alexander's technique, let us turn first to the elements in Alexander's orders to himself. I wish my neck to be free, so that my head may move forward and up, so that my back may lengthen and widen. You have already seen a picture in this manual of the muscles of the neck. They come in layers. And notice that the neck has a clear upper limit at the back, at the very base of the skull. And a clear lower limit in the front, the collarbones. Those muscles surround the top 7 vertebrae of the spine, so they are long. They are also big and powerful. They have to move ahead, and a head is heavy. They are complex because head movement is complex. The muscles of the neck are layered like artichoke leaves, and interior to those are a group of little postural muscles. That play an important role in the easy movement of the head forward and up, out of downward pull. Now is the time to ask yourself the all-important question for correcting your map. Is that how I think it is? Say the word neck to yourself. What does the name conjure? Does your neck look like the anatomy book? Is it a long structure? Is it powerful? Does it come all the way down to the collarbone? Is the neck in your map just in the back? Or does it come all the way around to the front, including all the way to the jaw? People who try to free their necks just in the back get a very strange and unpleasant effect indeed. So this is important. And neck is all the head moving muscles, front, back, and sides. So we go all the way around. And I like to add two things here. Our central perspective, which is so established within us, almost like a camera, taking photos or better videos of the world, leads to a neglect that the muscles go all the way around. I would call that a body neglect. What part of the body is neglected? Well, everything that is behind the camera lens. We believe in this video recording reality. When I had an art exhibition many years ago, I am a painter of the central perspective, very keenly Brunelleschi. I see that as a form. It's an abstraction that I follow, but I don't see it as reality. And I'm pretty sure neither did Brunelleschi. But it has become reality. So when I had the art exhibition, the absolute majority said that the paintings were like photos, or realistic, even worse. They are very, very far from realistic. But that goes to show that the Newtonian paradigm is in our body reality. The second take is, it's incredibly interesting that these misconceptions have sort of spread without any propaganda or media. There are no books in misconceptions, and still the absolute majority has them. Absolute. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of those who suffers from hardly any misconceptions, but is a great exception. I think this has the double effect of also show how the Newtonian paradigm can spread without the use of propaganda information. It's sufficient to be around other people. I will now take a closer look at the neck and how it works. And I ask my dear colleague here, Kalle Lundahl. Lundahl. Just to wake you up out of the trance. Could you please be seated and I will take a photo of you, or a
here.
Better video. Yes, please. Please sit down. And firstly, without trying out, could you, with your dominant hand and with your index finger, point to the place where the neck ends and the skull starts, and wait until I give the instructions to do so. Now. Leave it there, and it's placed on the third cervical, I would guess. Here is where the neck ends. and you can feel a little protrusion here, and this is part of your neck. If you believe your skull starts there, according to what we know about body maps, coming from Matthew Blakeslee and Sandra Blakeslee and a lot of other research today, you will try to bend your neck at that place. Now we will have to look, which is really hard. I see you carry a turtleneck today, but where does your neck end? And you can use your index finger. Never mind the turtleneck, and we do a demonstration, but still point somewhere.
Where my neck ends.
Ends, yeah.
I don't know anything about anatomy.
Well, it ends here.
Where?
There. And on the sides it ends here, at where your collarbone is. So your neck is, in reality, much bigger than your perception of it. And as we just read, this is the same for everyone. No one believes the neck to be of the width, the breadth, and also circularity as it has. And if you believe this, which you obviously do since you pointed there, the neck will become weaker. So this is one of the reasons a corrective thinking, which I would say is left brain, where you actively think of the neck as being all around the head, all around, equally as much at the back as at the front. And let's see, could you sit in a manner where you don't use your sitting bones, like a normal university posture for many students today? Yes.
No, I have seen people actually sitting like
this. Is, I think that's the most common, and we don't have to be kind. I do the same thing. Here, we're not using the sitting bones, and there is an absolute collapse of the whole bodily system. This will put an enormous strain on the back. But I would say this is caused by not realizing we human beings have perfectly situated, often called sitting bones, that you could use. And they will give you more than the support needed. The even more popular pose is the collapsed pose. While reading a most interesting book, and this is important, an interesting book is bound to collapse yourself into wanting to read it. So open a page and pretend it's very interesting and sort of collapse into the book. In the other way round, yeah, that way. Put your feet under the chair. Yes, very good, Kalle. Thank you. This is very common. And the day before yesterday, I saw an old professor and he bent his neck here. Like, yeah, he was sitting like this. And you can imagine here, this is 5 kilo, 4.5 kilo. You can imagine the strain on the neck. Calculations have been made that the strain can go up to 30, 40 kilos.
But is it, should you really read like that? You cannot read like this. This is too heavy, at least for a few minutes.
Less heavy books. Well, we can start with a mobile. You can make the normal mobile pose with collapse, which is, I would say, the normal today. And here you see bending at the wrong place of the neck, which is okay because This is a demonstration. You raise the mobile and all of a sudden the whole problem disappears. Keep it at eye level. I think it's an easy way to get out of the collapse. And for every time you do that, for every time there will be less tension here. And I can feel it myself. It's not as tensed. And once you get used to it, you will tense less and less here. This is one of the marvels with body mapping. By following it rigorously, left hemisphere, you will open up for more ease. And with more ease, you will be in more communication with your own body, which opens up for the right hemisphere and creativity, asymmetric thinking. The whole body will become, as you practice this, more flexible, more lenient, and you can move. Yes, very good, fantastic. It's more than expected. You see here, he's now balancing on the sitting bones. So his whole body goes in suit. It doesn't bend inappropriately here. So Kalle has been training this, and although I wanted to have a misuse example, this was also good. Good training, Kalle. Congratulations, you're helping yourself and the world. I say thank you very much and have a very pleasant afternoon.